So we got a situation here. Remember that ceasefire Trump was so proud of to announce? Yeah, that just ended. And I thought I should cover this quickly by watching this video. So yeah.
We begin this morning with a Fox News alert. Israel now ordering the IDF to respond forcefully after claiming Iran violated their ceasefire agreement. The IDF saying missiles were launched from Iran after the midnight deadline imposed by President Trump.
In just the last few minutes, Israel ordering high-intensity...
Are we surprised this happened? When America asked the Iranian regime to dismantle their nuclear program, they were constantly like flip-floating around the topic. And what do you expect from a government that uses AI videos to show their so-called victories over Israel? You can't believe them.
Strikes against regime targets in the heart of Tehran, and this violation of the deal comes less than an hour before the President of the United States is expected to leave for the NATO summit. You're watching.
I feel like
Fox
they
and Friends
intentionally
First on a
timed when
Tuesday
Trump was
morning
about to
that is
leave just to
moving
break the
very, very rapidly.
ceasefire.
I'm Todd
Maybe
Piper.
that's
And I'm Carly
just me.
Shimkins. Let's get right to Mike Tobin with the very latest on the ground in Israel. And Mike, here we go again.
Well, things are moving very fast, Carly and Todd. Iranian State TV now denies that they will respond. That the
Of
Iranian
course they would deny
Iranian
that.
military
Not surprising.
was responsible for those 1 or 2 missiles that went into Israel's north. We're still looking to confirm the specific
I'm guessing they
number
blame
on that.
their
That
proxies.
missile was intercepted and landed without injury, but not without consequence. As you mentioned, Israel's defense minister and the chief of general staff have now vowed fierce retaliation for the violation of a ceasefire that wasn't quite 4 hours old when those missiles came into the north of Israel. But again, Iran is denying that they took part in that. Now, as the ceasefire was preparing to take hold, about 5 waves of ballistic missiles came in from Iran. One of them hit down here in Beersheba, where I'm standing right now. And as we look behind me, you can see what looks like the impact site from that missile is indeed the impact site from the missile. You can see the rescue crews right now going through the rubble.
I wonder if there's any casualties.
Possible, people who are trapped in the rubble.
Jesus
it should be mentioned
Christ,
that no
man.
one is missing right now. They're just operating out of abundance of caution. One of the things I've seen the
No one
rescuers
is
doing
missing.
today is forming
So-
up an old-fashioned bucket brigade, carrying rubble out
So
of
there's
that
no
building,
casualties?
just to clear as much space as they can. We do know that a family of 4 was inside of the bomb shelter. That bomb shelter took a direct hit. Here is a spokesman from Homefront Command.
Wait, a bomb shelter. So someone did die.
The family was inside the shelter.
Oh, shit.
And unfortunately, when we have a direct hit, a direct strike of a missile in the shelter, it did not always help.
Yeah, of course. A direct hit will blow up
So those
even the
bombers do a good
strongest
job
of
protecting
shelter.
people in the blast radius, but when you have a powerful warhead like the one that came down here and it takes a direct hit, all 4 of those people perished. There was an additional 26 people who were injured by the force of that blast, and their
Okay, so
injuries
4
vary.
people are dead
So we're
and
watching the
26 are
situation. When
injured.
these missiles were
that's
fired,
actually
the Israeli fighter jets were in the air
heartbreaking.
over Iran. They detected the missile launches and struck back at least some of those missile launchers.
So
that
Israel
has taken
retaliated
place
as
all
well.
today. But the situation now, of course, is very fragile with Israel's defense minister and the chief of general staff vowing to strike back at Iran for what they say is a flagrant violation.
I don't
of
think
the
they should
ceasefire.
retaliate.
Iran now says they didn't do it. You
But
could be looking to one of the other
it's
rogue
their
elements,
right.
a rogue element inside of Iran, or one of the other proxies that are operating.
This feels like the story about that Japanese soldier during World War II. I remember it was like after the war ended, the Japanese soldier was stationed on one of the small islands around the Philippines, and he continued to fight for like 25 years or something. And I'm not saying that I believe Iran did not fire the missiles and it was one of their proxies within the country. But it should be their responsibility to control their proxies, right? And this is so obvious what kind of culture they have cultivated after years of sponsoring terror groups around the world. They eventually become rogue elements within their own countries that Iran can't control. And see what happens. It causes issues like this. Because if Iran is telling the truth and they really wanted to have peace, well, that's no longer on the table because of the actions of a bunch of like proxies. And breaking the ceasefire has definitely escalated the situation even further. Like nobody wins in this type of situations. And I'm saying this is karma for what Iran has done over the years. It's definitely karma.
Operating in the region. Guys, back to you.
Yeah, and Mike, what I'm hearing you say is at least one missile was intercepted after the ceasefire went into effect, but Iran is denying that it took part in that.
Of course they will be denying
if not
it.
Iran, then who?
Correct. One missile.
They're fucking liars.
I'm sorry, my earpiece is going in and out, but at least one missile was intercepted. No injuries reported on the ground. The tops of the Israeli military saying that the ceasefire has been violated and saying that they'll respond.
All right, Mike Tobin live for us in Israel. Mike, we will check back in with you as warranted. With that, let us bring in former Deputy National Security Advisor and Heritage Foundation Vice President of National Security, Victoria Coates. And Victoria, you heard Mike Tobin say Iran is denying that their government was responsible for these strikes. But assuming that that is not correct, assuming that the Iranian government is ultimately responsible, is this a mere hiccup? Can the ceasefire be saved? Or has Iran potentially crossed a red line from which they cannot come back?
I mean, it obviously can be saved, but it requires Israel to be the bigger party and not escalate the situation. And I'm not saying Israel doesn't have the right to retaliate, given it was Iran who shot first, but the situation has become so volatile. I'd rather the Israeli government take a more rational approach instead of taking the eye for an eye route, because continuing to kill each other is not good for anyone.
Well, Todd, unfortunately, this is the kind of messy period that generally happens around a ceasefire, where a side that is typically on the losing side is going to try to get a little bit more. They're going to try to have a last strike, something for domestic consumption that they can say that they, are still powerful. And we've seen what Iran is capable of. What they do is they fire at apartment buildings, at families sheltering in bomb shelters. This is hardly the stuff of a great military victory. Israel, on the other hand, is flying with impunity over Tehran right now, and I'm sure will take another strike on a strategic target, something like the missile launchers that will prevent Iran from doing this again. But it doesn't take away from what President Trump has achieved, which is that he's gotten both sides to agree to a ceasefire. It is time to end this war and consolidate Israel's and America's gains.
So you think that despite the fact that Israel is claiming that Iran launched a missile into Israel, and they're saying that the ceasefire is off, do you think that, like Todd said, could this be a hiccup? Could things proceed more peacefully in the hours to come?
Well,
yeah, maybe not. Who knows? We have to see what Trump does and whether or not if he can convince Israel to stop. Hopefully he can.
Carly, I never want to refer to the death of a family of four as a hiccup. I mean, we have to be mindful of the seriousness of that.
Yeah, and
Yeah, she's not wrong. This was still an attack on Israeli citizens, and the person said 4 people died, and it's never good to downplay the death of an entire family.
Victoria, understood on that point. The death of the family took place, and horrible that it happened. It took place before the official ceasefire went into effect, and now that it was, and now we're in a new world where every party agreed to a ceasefire, and then a missile was launched. So, how do people proceed forward?
Well, I think that we can proceed forward if the situation calms down, if Israel does take a retaliatory strike, and then we can get back to the ceasefire, because I think Israel has achieved largely their war aims. That's what they said last night. And so I think
they already destroyed the nuclear facilities. What more do they want?
The seriousness of the situation, and that both Israel and the United States are prepared to go back.
I mean, unless they want to bomb the leaders of Iran.
I cannot imagine the president is happy with
I
these
don't think
latest
that
developments out of Israel.
Smart.
How should President Trump respond?
Also, why doesn't America just send the CIA or FBI into Iran? I thought they're professionals at dismantling governments.
Well, I think President Trump will respond decisively. I mean, I think he's going to make very clear to the Iranians these are the terms.
Dude doesn't hold
They're in
back.
an extremely weak position. Both Israel and the United States can act as I said, with impunity against them. And so it is beholden on Iran now to start becoming a more responsible partner here. They have been given every opportunity, both before this war started, to engage
if Iran
in
doesn't
diplomacy,
comply, I
and
think
now
they'll
the
be
president
bombed again.
yesterday offering them the opportunity to come to the table and come to terms. Now, his patience, as we've discovered, is not infinite. So this better shut down now, and they better come to the table in the mood to make concessions so that we can get to the end of this war.
Remember, Trump already tried to give them a chance with the nuclear deal and they ignored him. What's stopping them from ignoring this ceasefire deal as well? They already broke it the first time. Like, do we expect them to actually apply to the ceasefire deal a second time? I'm not sure. I personally do want both sides to have peaceful negotiations. But we're talking about Iran here. I really don't know how much I trust them, to be honest.
Yeah, and President Trump is going to be leaving for the NATO summit in just a few hours. What will the conversation during the NATO summit be surrounding all of this?
I can already guess he'll probably tell NATO to strengthen their defense budget and maybe advise them to take a more leading role in maintaining peace throughout not just Europe but perhaps the Middle East as well, without relying too much on America. You know, the policy that he campaigned on. Or maybe he might tell them to help with Ukraine or the Iran problems. Who knows?
Well, I think it's going to be about the need for NATO to take a lot of responsibility for what's happening in Europe. This is a big demonstration of all of the obligations the United States has
instead
around the
of
world,
relying
not
on
just
America.
in Ukraine, also in the Middle East, also in the Pacific. So I think the president is going to go back to one of his signature issues, which is making the rest of NATO pay its fair share for the defense of the alliance. And we have the top 10 economies in NATO, the top economy being the United States. The other 9 are clinging at 2% of GDP to defense, not the 3.5 they need to be at. They're not even close. And so I think he's going to be laying down the law there and saying if NATO is going to proceed into the 21st century, if it's going to be relevant, it has to literally have cash on the barrel head here. We don't want pledges. We don't want some sort of projection of maybe getting to 2% in 3 or 4 years. We want them to pay up now.
Yeah, I feel like if America wasn't in NATO, their entire coalition, organization, whatever NATO is, would have failed by now. Every time I read about NATO, it's either they are doing something incompetent or they need money from America to bail them out from something. I don't understand why America still puts up with NATO.
Assuming for argument's sake that Iran, their government, is responsible for these strikes and not some proxy group like Mike Tobin alluded could be the case in light of the fact that Iran is denying that they are involved in this. Did Iran pick this timing in order to embarrass President Trump as he heads to NATO? And if so, how big of a miscalculation is that?
I think it's possible Iran timed this, and the attack that broke the ceasefire was likely their way of saving face. But to say it was to embarrass Trump, I don't think he cares that much. Although I feel like Israel retaliating is a bigger embarrassment for Trump. So he probably cares more about that over Iran breaking the deal.
Well, I don't know how specific it was in terms of embarrassing the president. I would say that it was a miscalculation on the part of Iran if they were responsible. It's kind of this, as I said, this gray zone around the establishment of a ceasefire that it can be kind of a difficult period.
And if Iran is trying to embarrass Trump, do you think he will let them continue living? You know how petty the man is.
If they want to get to diplomacy, they're going to have to start acting responsibly. And otherwise, he's going to take the gloves back off and let the Israelis go back in.
And this is the statement from Defense Minister Israel Katz.
He probably might do that.
To respond forcefully to Iran's violation of the ceasefire with high-intensity strikes against regime targets in the heart of Tehran. So with that, would you say that the war is officially back on right now?
Well, let's see what the Israelis actually do. I think some targeted strikes in response to this.
I don't think the war is back on. It wasn't really a war to begin with because there's no invasion or anything. They're just exchanging fire.
Proportionate, and then the ball goes back into the Iranians' court. So I think we'll see what the next couple of hours bring, but this was not a good move on the part of the Iranians. But I do think the ceasefire is recoverable.
And finally, Todd alluded to it, but Israel is saying that one missile was intercepted, and Iran is denying that they took part in it. Could it have been a proxy and not an Iranian strike, or is Israel able to tell and determine that this was coming from Iranian airspace?
Well, if we haven't figured that out yet, Carly, we will be able to figure out in pretty short order.
I'm pretty sure the intelligence agencies of America can figure that out. And even Israel should be able to figure that out, right? They have one of the best intelligence in the world, I think.
And I would be a little bit surprised because the Iranian proxies have been remarkable for their silence over the course of this 12-day war. We haven't seen a single rocket fired from Hezbollah. Hamas has been quiet. Even more surprisingly, the Houthi have been quiet. So it's
because Luffy is afraid of getting bombed by America again. It's so obvious.
possible one of them might have fired something off, but as I said, the Israelis are going to be able to tell pretty quickly what the trajectory of this thing was, and I'm sure they will publish those results.
And to that point, it would be odd for the proxies to act now, which really does call into question Iran's denial of them being responsible for this strike. Victoria Coates, we threw a lot at you.
It's possible it was the proxies that fired the missiles first, but even then, like I said, it's still Iran's responsibility to control them during a ceasefire, so I don't think that's a good excuse to use.
Breaking news literally minutes before our show started. We appreciate you and your insight this morning.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here.
But yeah, this shit is getting crazy. I really hope this doesn't escalate further. And by the way, Trump gave a statement a few hours ago, and I want to watch that as well.
But reports coming from the region suggest that the sides accuse each other for violating the ceasefire. So
I think they both violated it. I don't think they. I'm not.
Good on Trump for calling out both sides, although I do think Iran should take more of the blame because they were the one that shot first, at least according to the news. But then again, Israel should have avoided retaliation and tried to de-escalate the situation because it's already so volatile, and Israel retaliating will only make things worse. So I can understand why Trump is calling out both Iran and Israel. They really shit the bed with this ceasefire.
I'm not sure they did it intentionally. They couldn't rein people back. I don't like the fact that Israel went out this morning.
Yeah, even Trump can acknowledge that maybe Iran did not did it intentionally.
I'm going to see if I can stop it, okay?
You can tell that Trump is mad about this ceasefire and definitely wants to tell the mainstream media to fuck off here.
I think it's been completely demolished. I think the reason we're here is because those pilots, those B-2 pilots, did an unbelievable job. And you know, the fake news, like CNN in particular, they're trying to say, well, I agree that it was destroyed, but maybe not that destroyed. You know what they're doing? They're really hurting great pilots that put their lives in the line. CNN is scum. And so is MSDNC.
My God, he really doesn't miss the chance to insult CNN, and why is he calling the name of MSNBC wrong?
Those pilots hit their targets, those targets were obliterated, and the pilots should be given credit. They're not after the pilots, they're after me. They want to try and demean.
Yeah, from the derangement syndrome.
Iran will never rebuild its.
Also, he's not wrong. The pilots were just doing their jobs. And it really is disgusting that mainstream media are criticizing them because they bombed Iran's nuclear facility under Trump's order. The derangement syndrome is so bad. They can't even praise the pilots for doing their job and literally protecting the world by stopping Iran from getting nuclear bombs. Because, newsflash, if Iran gets nuclear bombs, America will be bombed. And not just America, the rest of the world as well.
From there? Absolutely not. That place is under rock. That place is demolished. The B-2
Blown to
pilots
bits.
did their job. They did it better than anybody could even imagine. They hit late in the evening. It was dark with no moon, and they hit that target with every one of those things, and that place is gone. But when I see CNN all night long, they're trying to say, well, maybe it wasn't really as demolished as we thought. It was demolished. You take a look at the pinpricks, and
We all know what CNN is doing and all the other like mainstream media outlets as well. They love to fearmonger. And sure, I can understand being skeptical about believing the words that come out from Trump's cabinet, but wouldn't you rather have Trump succeed than fail? Like, I would rather hear news that the bombing was a success than trying to criticize how it failed and spin a story just so you can make Trump look bad. The fear-mongering is so insane, man. You don't hate legacy media enough.
You see, that place is gone, and I will say, I think CNN ought to apologize to the pilots of the B-2s. I think that
They will never apologize because it will show people that they're just lying rats.
These cable networks are real losers. You really are. You're real losers.
Oh my god, he's still talking shit, man.
You're gutless losers. I say that to CNN because I watch it. I have no choice. I gotta watch that garbage. It's all garbage.
It's
all
not wrong.
news.
It's all garbage.
I think CNN is a gutless group of people, and the people that run it, nobody even knows it's been sold so many times. But the people
Oh my
that run
god,
it
Trump
are
is hilarious.
MSDNC, a guy named Brian Roberts, he heads it.
You got to love Trump, man. The way he shits on people is just hilarious. He has such an eloquent way of shitting on people.
Yeah, I do. They violated it, but Israel violated it too.
I'm so glad to see Trump having the balls to criticize not just Iran but Israel as well for breaking the ceasefire. Because it at least lets us know that he isn't completely controlled or influenced by them. Like, he calls them out for what it is. Although I feel like he might get assassinated in the future. Who knows? It might happen if he keeps criticizing Israel.
Israel, as soon as we made the deal, they came out and they dropped a load of bombs, the likes of which I've never seen before. The biggest load that we've seen.
Biggest load. Yeah, drop that load.
You know,
blow his load
okay,
all over
hours,
Iran.
You don't go out in the first hour.
The
and just
wording,
drop
man.
everything you have on
The
them.
phrasing.
So I'm not happy with them. I'm
Blowing
not
the
happy with
load.
Iran either. But I'm really unhappy if Israel's going out this morning because of one rocket that didn't land, that was shot, perhaps by mistake, that didn't land. I'm not happy about that.
You have to give credit to Trump here. He's holding himself in such a good way. And yeah, I mean, I would be angry as well. Trump was so proud of the ceasefire announcement yesterday, and Israel is out here making him look like a fool. We all know Trump cares about how people perceive him, and like I said, it's a good thing he has the common sense to know how bad it would be if the tensions in the Middle East continue to escalate. He is a businessman after all, probably takes his business first and being the president second.
Basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the fuck they're doing. Do you understand that?
Oh shit! Did Trump just drop an F-bomb on live television? Yeah, he's definitely mad. But he's not wrong. Israel, Iran, and all those other Middle Eastern countries have been fighting each other for so long. They have definitely become so desensitized to the idea of peace or ceasefire. And I'm guessing Trump is done with not just the Israel conflict, but all kinds of fighting. And maybe this was his way of releasing all that pent-up anger. We tend to forget that the man is trying to end the Ukraine war, the Pakistan-India conflict, defeat the terrorists in the Middle East, resolve the Palestine conflict, then having to clean up the mess between Israel and Iran, and handle the protests still happening back in America. Look, I know he has a terrible personality, but you can't deny, he seems to genuinely care about creating a peaceful world and maintaining peace, at least to a certain degree. And my god, when have you seen a president or any other world leader that can be dishonest? There's no diplomatic language, just sharing his actual opinions on how Israel and Iran fucked up the ceasefire. You got to love him for that. His other stuff, yeah, you can hate, but you can't deny his brutal honesty all the every time he speaks. He doesn't hide anything unless it's super confidential. But yeah, he is definitely super mad. And look at him, even the way he walks is like a total G, man. He is so fed up with everything. Just look at the way he's posturing himself and the body language. I'm not an expert, but he clearly seems tired. What is that salute? I'm guessing there's nothing else to react here. He's just getting on the plane. But yeah, I think a lot of people expected the ceasefire to fail, or at least they expected it to not last as long. Because I think it lasted only like 2 to 3 hours before Iran broke the deal, and then Israel retaliated as well. So I really do understand why Trump is so angry. I would be too.